Alright, welcome back to another Conquest Corner. On this particular episode, we are going to actually start doing some list building. Now, you're probably going to see this done in two different parts, because one, I'm recording one of these right after I just did the modular regiments. I finished about a minute ago, drank some water, and started back up again. But also because there's two different ways I want to at least start with the theming here for these Yoroni list builds. The first one I want to theme off of what can you get when the faction drops. So what's something you could actually try out early on? Now, if you're proxying stuff, proxy whatever you want. You can't quite see it. Yeah, he's a little off camera over there. No, he's actually on camera. You can kind of see his fiery back. But, where is it? Right there, if you're watching this. But there's a Rakshasa back there, and he is going to be calling himself a geisha in the not too distant future, so I could test some stuff out. I'll put a little piece of paper on him to make sure everyone remembers what he is. But if you're willing to proxy whatever, do whatever. You can figure out your main list. My thought with this is if you actually want to go somewhere with them and do something with it, or if you're just not a big fan of proxying, and at least me originally, I like to have a where am I going to start and where am I going to get to in terms of my lists. Really, the big things that we know are lacking are the Shikigami, the Origami Warriors, and all the monsters. So I'm going to try to build a list without some of those things for the time being, see what sort of things we get, and then make at least a list when we start incorporating some of those. I don't know how many I'm going to do in this. I can pin them. At least I can try to pin them in the YouTube comments. Or, yeah, if I could probably try to pin at least more than one, or maybe in the notes underneath. So once that's done, I'll find a way to have them available for you. So this is going to be at least two, might be more, because I'll be honest, I'm sitting here doing this at the moment. I have not pre-thought about a list other than some basic ideas, but I kind of want to go through, especially as we see a new faction, because I've had to do this now also with Sorcerer Kings not long ago. With a brand new faction, how do I actually attempt to put a list together? How do I try to approach it? And what do I attempt to do? So one, I thought it might be interesting to sort of see some lists that come up, and if nothing else, this is a good exercise for me in starting to think about this. Keep in mind, if you're picking up this or anything else, we do have a discount code in the show notes below. It's Train Kickers. We have a link as well you can click on. Saves you 10%, helps us out, helps, keep up with all of this and everything else that we have to do. All right, so let's go ahead and start doing some list building. So just to make sure it's clear, we're going to start with things that we know the release date of. So we're looking at late April, up to April, I think 25th currently is what's listed. So what essentially is out then is our monsters, which includes the Daiyokata, yokai, and the Genyu no yokai. Shikigami are out as well, but the modulars, I think, are all actually in, except for Origami Warriors. We don't have them. But everything else we're going to work with. So like I said, for this first one, we're just going to build off of that, and then we're going to work from there. So this one will feel more limited, but it gives us sort of a starting point. Here's maybe something to aim towards, or something to start with, and then we can aim towards from there. Depending on you, okay, the way I personally like to build up an army is I don't build a list. I don't say, well, here's my list, this is all I'm ever going to have. Because the same list bores me. I change lists every couple weeks. Again, I'm not trying to be, the top tier, make it to Hios world champion. I'm looking to play and have fun, and probably most people are as well. I personally like to change up things I do, and if I find I'm in a rather competitive location or meta, then I will talk to my opponent ahead of time saying like, hey, I'm going to bring some of this, like it's definitely not optimal. Let's have a non-optimal battle to try and test out some different things and just have some fun with it. So I know for me, maybe at the end of the day, I wouldn't have exactly all of that I'm going to put down here, but I might have close to it, then a couple monsters, Origami Warriors, and then I can sprinkle as well. All right. Gonna grab a Daimyo for sure. The biggest difference, honestly, with the characters is we're thinking about whose Warlord ability we want. Keep in mind what the Warlord abilities in general do. And I didn't mention this in my Modular Regiments video, but we'll mention a little bit more here, is that it gives a replacement for that effect. So like for the Daimyo, just talking about him a little bit here. Okay, he has a Ka battlefield role. So once per round, if something activates would get the Ka ability, they get to do this thing instead. Hey, Glorious Charge, great. Once per game, during a round, anyone who gets the Ka deal card gets the benefit. So, I know in the regiments there, I talked about how you wouldn't necessarily want the Daimyo in with, I think it was the Oni, who were Ka as well. There is a little something you can do with that because, hey, you could take that once per round, give them Glorious Charge, and then rush in as well. That is absolutely a play. Actually, that might be a play I'd go with. But we're going to start with the Daimyo. Other characters that I want, like I said, the monsters are out. We're going to not do them right now. If I want any spells, I'd have to take the Oniami. Maybe I'll grab a Bakasu for the moment. The Katsu being Fu, you get some extra March. It has Deadly Blades. So actually, it with Deadly Blades with the Tengu isn't too bad. Because you still actually have to roll the dice. But maybe not as much. So we'll come up with there in a second. Since the Domaru are available, I'm going to put them in as well. It's the same reason why I didn't just go with an Oyabun. And I want a Kitsune. Because I want some sort of light. I don't think I'm going to increase it beyond that size. I think that's absolutely perfect size. And let's put 2 modulars in for each to start with, and then we're going to kind of figure out what we want to do here. All right, so now keep in mind, if we want the Kami to be the main, it has to be most of them. So we can go with 2 of those. We could go... Kappa wouldn't really necessarily do us too much compared to the Oni. No, sorry. This side I put up as well, so we can kind of compare them right now. So we have Oni in there right now. We're getting the extra attacks and gaining Juggernaut. Kami getting a little bit trampled could be useful. Going with Kappa to get a little bit, you already have good cleave, but maybe a little bit lighter cleave. The question is, where do I want to put the character? Because wherever I want to put the character, I want extra stands. If I have 2 of them, I could see just putting in 1 Oni as well, getting some extra cleave and all of that. So that means this particular unit then is going off of the Kami, because that's what it has most of. It's a little 3-pack. I could put the Daimyo in there. You're getting extra defense on this unit. Makes them more survivable for the Daimyo. The Daimyo has good cleave. So does your 1 regiment of Oni. So that way you have a good amount of attacks at that cleave 2. You can cut through some people. You'll be affected by the Ka battlefield roll, so you can get extra impact and extra brutal and brutal impact. Otherwise, you are currently being affected by you can be easily affected by the Chi, which gives you Indomitable 2, again, furthering your survivability by quite a bit. I like that as a unit for him. I might end up going with adding a little bit something extra in there, but we'll wait. What other sort of modular regiment do we want? I think at Kappa Bushi, you need to put someone else in. Putting in Oni isn't bad. Or putting in, actually, maybe what we do is make it a 4. Oh, we'd have to go further then. Do we want to actually go to a 5? 3 Kappa Bushi. That would be legal for the moment. So you have 3 stands of Kappa Bushi. I'll put it here just so we can take a look at it. So what sort of things do we have then? We're the sweet type, which means we can swap to who we want. Their command rule is that you can get the effect of any ideal card, but if you activate actually off of the sweet ideal card, then you can count as the other command stand special rule. So, am I going to charge in? I'll activate off the Ka card. Am I needing to move further? I'll activate off a Fu card. If there's a mute card in that deck, hey, I can get some extra evasion. I can activate off of whichever of those I want, and then in the turn when I really need it, I can activate out the Su card, and I could either be giving myself, I'll pull these up, I can either give myself extra defense, which is very survivable, or just more attacks. So for when I'm in, if I'm hitting something I can get to early, or if I'm worried about, I'm going to take this unit's gone, and as soon as they're gone, the opponent now can go smack me with a bunch of different stuff. I do think some of these units have to be a little bit big. I don't know if the Daimyo actually wants to go into that even bigger unit. I think, for the moment, I'm going to make him the Warlord. I might swap my mind. What will she get for Fu? Gives Fluid Formation. Oh, if you go off of Fu, we'd have to think about how many cards we have of each. Right now, we know for sure we have a Ka card here. We only have one, so we'd want more of them. We are getting the Mew card, so we do have a Mew card currently for that Kappa Bushi unit to be able to activate off of. For some modular regiments, we also have to keep in mind that every character can only actually bring 4. So we might actually have to throw an extra character in either way. For my leader, like I said, I want to take Tengu Ayakashi. And I'm going to make you a little 2-pack. So I'm going to duplicate that one, because I want 2 little 2-packs of that. That adds some food cards as well. Get that extra move. Both good for them or good for that Kappa Bushi unit. What do I want as well? The problem with more Kappa Bushi units is... actually, no, if we're going with a bunch of modular, that is useful. So I could actually do another one of those. It's a very big points-wise expensive unit, but it can do potentially a lot for you. And it has a lot of flexibility, which I like. That also means since he is Ka, you can activate off of that. You can get the extras. So the one thing we're missing is if he's the leader, we only have 1 Ka card. We'd want more. And that is a problem. What might be the last one? It's what, Oni that are Ka? Yeah. Could go with a 2-pack of Oni. That would fill out what we have for the moment at 1850. Couldn't go any further with this. Obviously, you just add more into that. Sorry, into the Oni unit for the Ka. This was the Kami unit. I mean, if you really need the availability, we could swap them. Oh, sorry, this one's blank. Okay, good. Still got another unit I could put some stuff in. Just realized it was actually blank. So I might have to actually downgrade one of those. So, if we're making him the leader, and then we got to take a look at upgrades as well. If we were doing that, we could go with another Oni unit. I just have to make sure which one's... Yeah. Could go with another Oni unit. That's going to be too many points, but that's okay. Because what we can do is we can say, okay, for one of these then, everything else is pretty minned down. For one of these then, since we have a good amount of Oni, I'll take the Oni out of one of them. So it means I can only swap to the Kami, but I can get the bonus of any card, and then I can get extra defense. The other one can do its bits at once. Puts us at 1930. So, see, without using Oricon words or anything, that'll be a little bit tough. But the Domaru, at least we can add in one more of those. So we have, just think about, we have a Ka character. We also have a Fu character. So we've unlocked the Ka and the Fu disciplines. So it might be easiest to look at those here. We'll just look it off of anyone. It doesn't really matter. The Ka, we can get quick silver strike, and duels cannot be refused. Taking a look at him, he is cleave 2. He quick silver strike, so he'll get hit first. Pretty strong for him to take that if he wants. Terrifying 1. You don't really have terrifying, so that actually is rather nice. Actually, in the first one, we might be able to fill the points because that is 40 points. Or your wounds count as 2 for testing morale, just to get some extra fight into it. I do like that. Okay, a bit of an awkward pause there. I went about and did some things for several hours, and coming back to finish this part of the list. Essentially, I had just things I had to take care of. We were taking a look at the different disciplines because we still had a few points left and seeing how we can use any of those. And that's when, just a moment ago, when I looked and I remembered the Fu for the Horagai Master, where within 10 inches, you gain Unstoppable. And that one feels like what you need. I would probably put it, since it can go on either one, probably put it on the Daimyo, just since he is more likely to be in the thick of it, as at least compared to the regiments that he's necessarily bringing with him. I understand why they did it this way, but I wish it would show more than just saying modular regiment. Because as I said, I actually did this several hours ago, and now looking, I don't remember who's what. So, gives us a spare 50 points still. So we could take a look, is there anything good for her? They each can only take one. Could just pump them up. I get 990. I do think hitting exact totals might be a little bit of an issue in this army because, you know, even your upgrades, when you look at them, a good amount of them, you got a couple like 15 pointers, but a lot of them are 20 plus. You don't have any like the 10s, or you only really, again, even if you look at it, what, you got 15, 20, 20, you do have a 10, two 10s, but you have to be taking those characters. So since it is very limited, like if you're bringing Ka, you know, you probably want one or the other higher too, which are just more points. So, all right, so that gives a list. What do I like about the list? Actually, I just downloaded the PDF of it to see if I liked that version to kind of show off here more. I really don't. So we have our Daimyo with his Horagai Master. So he's giving a 10-inch reroll charge bubble, which is very good because we don't have any of that anywhere else, really, other than the Domaru has it. We have a 2 Kami, 1 Oni mixed stand. The idea of that is a bit more defensive, and the Oni is really going to help them slam through something. We have a Kappa Bushi stand, which lets us swap to either the Kami or the Oni command special rule because of if they activate with Sui. But you know, they get any ideal card. So here's a good unit that has a nice mixture of ability that gets whatever card they want. You have several instances of Ka in this particular list, so it gives you a good shot to be able to get those extra impacts that you want. We have another unit that's very similar, although we did have to get rid of the Oni. I put the Kami in. You could switch to the Oni, though. It just depends on what you want. I like the little bit extra defense personally, but that's me. And the trample's nice as well. Our last one is essentially just a double pack of Oni. One that's nice is it gives us Ka, gives us more of those heavy hitting that we are lacking because we don't have any of those monsters. We look at the Kitsune, nothing special on that one, adding in a Fu card, which is very useful for the extra march. We're also going to be getting that with our double pack of Tengu. I'm sorry, there's one. There's the other one. So it's here and here. So our Tengu Ayakashi. So just little doubles, getting good shots on the people. We have our Domaru, so we have a light. Big point with these guys is, one, I mean, they're adding a Mew card, which can be helpful at times, especially for Kappa units who could take it in the turn if they really need to. If you're stuck in with someone with Cleave 3, you might be able to get up to your Evade 2 to be twice as survivable as you were before. Regiments can draw through them, so they can put themselves wherever. The Tengu don't really care. And being a little 4-pack means that for these guys, since I mean, they have the unstoppable base, I'm probably not really worried about their attack. I'm probably going to run them 2x2 rather than wider, so that way they can go hit someone. They get all their impact, and then you still potentially, if your opponent is 3 wide, you can still get one of your units in there and get 2 of their stands onto it. And you do have a 2 Oni unit, or even some of these 3 packs or so, or even the bigger ones that you're running, getting a few on there might be the part that you need. Yeah, and the only other thing we have is a double pack, again, another double pack of Oni, mostly because my Warlord's the Daimyo and he wants some Ka cards in there for bonuses, and it goes very well with the fact that you have impact on everything. Actually, okay, you have impact on everything except for the Tengu, but that's fine, they're shooting it, they're not going to go towards it anyway. They don't actually want that at all. Greatest list? No, but it gives you a list related. It gives me at least a list related to the things that they have. Like I said, I think I said this before in one of the other videos. When the First Blood starter comes out, I think that's a great way to start this army because it would get you the Kitsune, get you a little bit of some of these different regiments. You can pick up a few more things. You're kind of good to go. I also tried to, at least to some extent, minimizing needing multitudes of certain boxes. I mean, with the Tengu, that does leave you 2 spare. Or if you bought it through that First Blood starter, yeah, just check. That First Blood starter does come with 2. So if that comes with 2, that in a box would get you all the Tengu you need. And you do have a spare Tengu for that particular list. Get you the Kitsune that you need. Let's pull this up. It gets you your 3-pack of Domaru if you... Okay, so the way I put it, you needed a 4th. but you could easily swap that out and take off like an upgrade, just put in one of something else. Doesn't really matter too much what you wanted to actually put in there. 3 Kami. I don't know if I actually used 3 Kami. I don't think I did. Yes, I did, because there's 2 Kami there, and there's another Kami there, and then a 4th one. But okay, so between that and a couple other boxes would actually get you reasonably far. If you really wanted, you could actually make this a fundamental part of the list, so that way you can kind of build up from that point. But everything in here would be used. I think it's a great way to actually start this particular army, and then you pick up other boxes as you go along. All right, so that is a list put together related to things that we already have. Let's talk about how we might put something together where we don't restrict ourselves in the same way. Actually, very briefly, found a much better way to display it is if you just do the share rather than the PDF. The PDF's, since the PDF has to have the rules in as well, it's kind of unattainable right this moment. However, this works really well just to see what sort of things are in there. So now we have this we can look at instead. All right, and actually, so what do we all have? We have the 4 Tengu. We have 2, 4, 5, 6 Oni. So essentially 2 box Oni. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 Kami. And 3 Kappa. All right, yeah. So I don't know, and the Domaru. All right, so not too bad. But let's take a look and do the same sort of thing. But now we want to put in whatever we feel like. So if we're allowing ourselves to kind of up and do what we like, I think we have to end up going with at least a monster. I might actually end up going with 2. Not that I necessarily think it's that great, but I kind of just like the feel of it. Say we take a look at the Geisha. Adds Mew, which is fine overall. In Oyabun or Kitsune Oniomi, maybe just to start getting some of those spells into there. You are getting, see, for this Sui battle roll, that means I'm going to at least want a Kappa unit for this, because I want to be able to utilize what they do. So we can take a modular regiment. Keep in mind, so when we take that Kappa, they can activate anything. They will add the same battlefield roll. Ooh, so I'd have 2 of them. But actually, that's not so bad in this, because if I take mixtures of units, it actually works pretty well. Thinking about, no, you don't really need it, but I do like the Kappa, just in general, because being able to swap out with that unit what you want works very well. We'll need at least 1 more, and then we can put something else into it. We'll just put an Oni into it, just to make it nice and simple. The other thing I want to do is I do want to take one of the other monsters. I want the Genyu no Yokai, because that one does have the cleave 3. So, and it's grabbing any battlefield roll that it wants. It has its unstoppable, so we have that, and it's Enlightening Fury. So once you activate with something, it gets all of those abilities from then on out. So we want to try to make sure we include at least, I mean, the one we have so far is not necessarily the one that it needs, but all the rest of them. We do have a Mew in there already then. I guess I could have put it there, but it didn't really matter. I'm not going to put Shikigami. So let's put another regiment here. I still want a Tengu Akayashi unit. Again, I think you need some shooting. Am I happy with just 1? I'm happy with 1 for the moment. 1 adds in a food card, which is good. So we're kind of diversifying what sort of cards we have. We can take a look at another modular regiment. Since with maybe the 2 monsters we're stacking up pretty fast, we probably have to actually look a little double packs. So we could go with a double pack of Oni. I'm doing that because I want to, now that we're kind of opening what we take, is a pack of Origami Warriors. For Origami, to keep them cheap, I'm fine with just taking 2. I think it's absolutely fine as a little 2-pack. For those Origami Warriors, they're adding more Mew. So when you're taking the monsters, I think you really want some of that variety. So we have Mew covered. Sui, which is fine. Kappa, Chi, and Fu are the ones that we need then, if we can fit it in. Okay, so let's take a look and see what sort of options we have for that. Kami or Chi, so we could include a little Kami unit. That gives us our 4 there. For the one over here, if we include another module, I'm not going to put Shikigami in. So We actually do have food because we already have the birds, and actually we have everything covered for the moment. We are currently looking at, since the monster would be separate, technically 4 regiments there. We're looking at, or 4 regiments, so we're at 8 regiments, 9 activations currently. I want to get at least 10. The big thing is with this, unless we take an extra character, we're going to kind of be very limited because we're just going to run out of things that we can take because we're kind of maxing out what we have. We already have 6 of our allowed modular regiments. So a lot of these are little 2-packs. What you could do, this one doesn't have anyone in it yet. We haven't taken any Tengu Bushi in the other list. They're another food card, which is useful. Let's think about who is going to be the Warlord. Okay, they get to do the spell. So if that is the Warlord, rather useful. We currently have, 2 of those cards in the stack right now. For this one from Mew, that's his inspiration, my apologies. For the Supremacy for the Geisha. The Mew card gets replaced by Loose Formation. I'm kind of liking the Anayami more for the Warlord. One, we have 2 Su cards in there. This character, as well as the Kappa unit, are. So that means they can actually get extra spells out. They're getting Blossom in the Wind or Misery of Failure. Blossom in the Wind is the one that restricts someone to 2 actions. As someone who plays Sorcerer Kings, would absolutely hate to see this across the board from me. 12-inch range might be a little bit short, but you can still make it happen. And the other one we don't have listed right here. Misery of Failure and Vision. Oh, there it is. -1 to resolve. So actually, I kind of like that one as the Warlord. You have 2 different units that will end up being able to cast those spells. You have your Warlord who can just cast a spell naturally. And not a free extra. And then you have these 2 units that, or this unit that will have it. So I would put my Warlord in a different unit. I don't want it in here. It would still be fine, but I want to be able to double stack abilities on things. And these guys are already allowing that interchange. That's why they ended up taking the Anayami. So one of these others should probably have at least something different. Double think of Oni. Put an Origami in there to give them more survivability while they walk their way in. That's what we have currently. We're at 1,700, so we have 300 points left. For 300 points, you could go with another character. You could also, you're already at 2 monsters. I wouldn't necessarily go with the other one. I think that maybe he's getting a little bit too crazy on things. Do I hate the idea? The problem is you don't have a lot of survivability because you get a lot of 2s. Not that that's necessarily the end of the world, but I don't think an extra character will help you so much. Monsters have good survivability, which helps. So we have Mew and Sui, so we could take a look at upgrades. Doesn't really do us any good because that's when it's working on someone else. Any regiments currently in contact with this regiment lose all special rules from enemy spells. Can be good. And within 10 inches count for +3 stands for scaling purposes. If you happen to have a very sorceress meta, I think that could be very good. But if you don't, I'm not really too pleased with it. Oh, the purification rites really doesn't work. At least it doesn't seem to work right now. Friendly regiments get line of sight and check for obscuring as if they were not there. It doesn't really do us any good. And Afuda, when this character activates using a Mew card, you may have the regiment this character is attached to gain the effects of any other ideal card instead. You have to gain the effects. When activates using a Mew card, you may have that regiment this character is currently attached to gain the effects of any other ideal card instead. I assume then you have to be gaining the effects to begin with. So this character not being a Mew character means I don't want to take that. That's my assumption, though. If you want to make the list funny, you could just take the other monster, fill out the list. You would have, 40 points left over. You can't really do anything with that. The other option you could do, since you have a lot of little 2-packs, is you could actually go with another character. We talked about changing up things. Actually, I think a Daimyo is just really good. He needs a regiment to go in. We have enough for what he is him in an Oni unit does just a lot of good. The only downside of that, then, is that they match exactly. Although, the reason we might want them to match is because it's got cleave. You got cleave here as well. Here's another big cleaving unit. You only got 30 points left over, so you really couldn't do anything with that. But putting in a Ka, now you do actually have some open up of what you can take for upgrade purposes or disciplines. Other option, if you want to vary it a little bit more, they're probably okay just getting that, because in reality, yes, in a perfect listing of activations, everything will activate off of the ideal card for itself. That's probably not realistic. You're probably not always going to take it exactly the way you want, or even if you did stack it that way, oh wait, they did this. I need to go with this unit now, no matter what. I know I was waiting for them for later because they get all these other cool things, but they'll be gone by then. So I think that's a decent way to do it. You do open up, you could now take and make one of your regiments terrifying. Well, you can make the character terrifying, either of these two characters, which makes the regiment terrifying. Depending on where you want to put it, I was probably putting her, actually not in the, where was I going to put her? The Kitsune Bakasu. This unit really wouldn't do it any good because she's the same field type. So I want to put her somewhere else. Don't want to put the Origami Warriors, maybe with the Kami. Her ability then doesn't really do anything. So is that really a good way to put it together? It's interesting when you start thinking through the process of making these sort of lists, because you want to, are you trying to put just units that you think look nice? Are you trying to put units that can take a wide variety of cards? Like, her card pick doesn't do too much. Although, if she's your Warlord, as that supremacy, you do get that extra spell cast. So, her going and sitting with the Kami isn't a bad idea. The Kami can be going just to try to get the extra one. The Kami themselves will have the extra defense, which makes it a little bit more survivable where she's sitting, especially because she's sitting in a very small regiment. She'll get an extra cast when it goes off. They have the Chi, so they'll get Indomitable, so that way a little bit more survivable. That actually might be a really good spot for her. And then with those last 30 points, I said, the Henya, don't really want the terrifying there. I'd probably, since you only have two choices, I would put it on the Daimyo. All right, so this was the second list put together. Has the Geisha. So you got one big monster there. You do have the other big monster a little bit later on in the Genyu no Yokai. So you got really good cleave there. You have a Daimyo who's giving terrifying 1 to his unit of 2 Oni. So everything there is cleave 2. This is your sort of either other hammer unit or the backup, so that way the Genyu no Yokai, if they're teeing off to get rid of that because of what it can do, here's a unit that can follow up and still get quite a bit of good things done. You have a little 2-pack of Kami. That way your Warlord, your casting Warlord, can go in there. Allows that unit to cast because she has the supremacy. She may cast. And you have your Kappa Bushi who may cast as well. And they can take a different card depending on what they need at the time, because that's what essentially the Kappa get to do. Then you have a little 2-pack of Origami Warriors. Their only goal is to get into people's way. Just rush them up, get in the way, stop something that you're worried about hitting you, get, clog up where they're going to put their giant cav unit or whatever it may be, force them to hit you, force them to take lethal demise. The next modular regiments under the Geisha, going to get a 2-pack of Tengu, the Ayakashi. That way you can actually get some shooting into this list. Little 2-pack of Oni, exact same idea. I'm seeing this army, at least since you have decent impact, you got some cleave, stuff like that. I'm seeing for this one, Ka will be really nice because then you'll get to get a decent impact in, and then the attacks right afterwards. But also I'm seeing they're good, at least by looking at it, against things with some armor. If they have really good evade, I don't see what they're doing about any of that. They don't have any tricks unless you're going with a lot of Tengu Bushi, where you get like tons and tons of attacks just to eat through someone's evade. And then you have another little 2-pack of Oni with Origami Warrior. So I really went Oni heavy for this particular one. You have a lot of cleave. This list, I haven't played it. Maybe it's garbage. Don't know. I like this list into many matchups in general. I don't like it into Nords because depending on what Nords are running, especially if they're running the Volva as their Warlord, because then they get extra evade. So evading Nords, I think you'd have some troubles with. I think you do pretty well against 100 Kingdoms because they usually don't have much evade. They just got a lot of armor. You've got quite a few units that have like cleave 2, and the Kappa as well have cleave 1. So you have a good amount of cleave throughout this army. And even your little bit of shooting, because you don't have a lot of it, but your little bit of shooting has an AP of 1. Spires, I think they could do well against. If it's like a fat Spires list, again, you got a lot of cleave. If it's much more the Horde, you just have the issue of can you get enough into them because of how many wounds you have to do, because of how big some of these are. But that's fine as well. Any other particularly good or bad matchups? Old Dominion, I think it's pretty decent into. Maybe not Fallen Divinity, because her lists are weird. But anything else, they tend to have very little evade. Some units have decent evade, like the Ukefali on evade too. But otherwise, you tend to look at more of armor and shields and all. And you got a lot of cleave to get through all of that. We're not looking at great evade. And the other things they do, limiting the actions, I think will help, especially if you're facing, say, Sorcerer Kings. So the spells that the Kitsune or the Su units can do really help out quite a bit. Yeah, other ones I'm not too sure about. City States is probably fine against, maybe for better or worse. Monster Mash lists, it at least has good cleave to get into those. The problem it would have there, or against any sort of heavy thing, is that it doesn't have the survivability, because you're not looking at, you have a lot of like little twos. The little twos are going to do fine or seemingly do fine if they can get into someone, but if someone gets in them, it's going to be a problem. I would be worried about like the 100 Kingdoms all Cav list, because they're, especially if they're taking, some of those Cav models care more about fighting combat. Some of them care much more about the impacts. The ones that care about the impact, if that's all you want, they can knock down any of these 2 little pack regiments. Now, that's true in the game in general. You get hit by anything big enough, a lot of these will go down, but I think it gives you some options there. I think, having now built a few lists, I think one thing we're going to see, maybe a little bit after they come out or when they think about it a little more, I think some of the points might be a little bit high. The models themselves are good, but since you don't have ways to get, at 160 for a model, say 2-pack of Oni, I'm getting 3 stands of something else, or maybe even a little bit more. When you think of brutes in general, you don't necessarily mind it because you have some brutes, but then you have some other things as well. You have some like a little bit cheaper infantry, or maybe take a big block of infantry, but you have that, and maybe you spend as much on that as a 4-pack of the brutes and all. But you have ways to just get the extras out. Because I'm actually already at 1 short of maximum modular regiments. I took 7. But I'm looking at but you also have 2 monsters, so I guess if you remove them, you could fit a whole lot more in. Maybe the first monster I would probably remove would be the Geisha. To not build the same as that list I did before, maybe put an Oyabun in, or just put another Daimyo. Put another Daimyo, essentially repeat what you already see. That would be fine. Or put it with a Kami unit or something like that. Or maybe another Kappa unit with something mixed in to try to vary it up a little bit. So, all right. I'm curious what kind of, I know online people put a bunch of lists. I've been purposely avoiding looking at some of those because I just want to kind of get through my own thoughts at first. I do like the thoughts of these different lists. I'm curious to see how they might play. Like I said, I'm going to try them out. That's my goal. I just don't know the timing of exactly when I'll be able to do that. I don't know if it'll be this upcoming week or say a week or so after. With work starting back up, it makes it a little bit tough to get some of the hobby time that I usually would need to get all of this put together nicely. I don't like rushing around on, say, like Friday morning to get everything together to go then run out to the store, because usually that just makes me feel too hectic. And most weeks, that's usually my best day to get out. So we'll see. But if not, Got a little bit of time for these guys to come out. Got plenty of painting. What you see back over there is painted, but I have plenty of other models to work on. About, if I put it all together, about, I don't know, 100 models or so to finish between various projects, various game systems, various bits. So I'm going to try to do that over the next, before all this stuff comes out in March. That way I would like to just remove all my painting backlog if I can. I don't know if I'll get quite that far, but I'm pretty close. I have a little bit left of my old world, and that's entirely done. A little bit left of my Necrons, and then they're entirely done. A couple other projects as well. This stuff for Conquest might be where I have the most things to do. And then 30K, a reasonable amount. Not too much, but like bigger things like a Xiphon and all to work on. So we'll see. All right, well, that'll do it for this particular episode. Like I said, if you're looking to pick up this or anything else, we have a discount code below. It's Terrain Kickers. Saves you 10%, helps us out as well. Does all of that. Like I said, I push that instead of the Patreon, which that's fine as well, but I do that because then you get something out of it as well, something much more direct. All right, so that for the moment at least finishes up our coverage for the Yoroni until maybe I get to test them out and come back with some thoughts on them. So I'm going to try to get to that. As soon as I can. For other things you'll be seeing soon, like I said before, I'm going to be working on a Learn to Play series. It's going to be starting either end of this week into next. You'll probably see it in about a week and a half to 2 weeks, I would say, is where you're going to start seeing it. I'm going to do it in a couple different parts because I want to start with just the base. Here, what is this game? Nice quick thing. And then ones that go a bit more into detail. I'm trying to branch it into things that should be reasonably evergreen in the rules. And then things that will change and might force me to have to update videos or those sort of things as they go along, because there is rules changes that occur, but there's certain things that don't really change much. The basic way that you interact, the basic way you shoot, all those sort of things are pretty constant. So I want a video that kind of goes through that, what the base actions are. So other than that, other things you'll be seeing, working on some Trench Crusade stuff, got some Battletech stuff from Dan to work on as well, and then working at trying to finalize some times to be able to get some extra battle reports in, all of that, and hopefully getting back to just normal recording with the other guys. But again, schedules can get tough. I know pretty soon my schedule solidifies nicely. Steve's does as well, and Dan's is solidified as a person with 2 children, and rather one very young and one rather young child can be. So we'll see what we can do about all of that. Well, on behalf of everyone at the show then, have a good hobby. It's a great gaming.